Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. Hello, everyone. My name is Brad Walsh, host of your podcast, Empowerography. Today, my guest is Emily Francis. She is an author, a radio show host. Emily, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. How was your evening last night?
Well, my evening was great, but my morning is better because today is the official release date to my book.
Yes. Tell us a bit about that. What's the book called?
The book is called Whole Body Healing, Create Your Own Path to Physical, Emotional, Energetic, and Spiritual Wellness. And it's the follow-up book. If anybody's heard of me, I wrote the book, The Body Heals Itself, How Deeper Awareness of Your Muscles and Their Emotional Connection Can Help You Heal. And that came out 2 years ago, and it's been picked up in a few other countries and transcribed into different languages. And this Whole Body Healing is the follow-up book to The Body Heals Itself. And so I'm so excited about this book because it's my offering. It's my offering to the readers in all of my years of research on different ways to heal that live around the world, that are wider than our mainstream protocol without leaving behind our mainstream protocol, and offering up the different aspects of your body and what that entails under each.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
I know, right?
So where can people get this book?
They can get it where books are sold now, officially today, but also because of the quarantine, you can get it anywhere online. So Target.com, Walmart.com, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, of course, and then a lot of the little bookstores will be carrying it.
Beautiful. There you go, folks. Go out and get her brand new book. So you have quite the extensive resume. You're a radio show host, an author. You're also a Reiki master. A certified pediatric massage therapist, a yoga teacher.
Well, I haven't taught yoga in a while, but I am trained, yes.
Is there anything you can't do? I mean, where on earth do you find all the time for this stuff?
Well, that's why I'm not teaching yoga these days and haven't in quite some time because, and I still do hands-on body work some. And I specialize in lymphatic drainage, so I'm a lymphedema therapist. I work on people with cancer. But it's my specialty. That's my real specialty. But the truth is, I had children. They're 6 and almost 8 now. So I really stepped away from my hands-on practice when I had children, and I focused on my writing and my child raising career really as a full-time mom, because I still do have particular clients, but really small handful that are personal people that I've kept for years that they need me specifically. But if it's if it's somebody that doesn't need my actual expertise specifically, I'm real quick to pass them on to somebody else that would be a better match, because I'm not available and I can't make commitments. Some people will call and ask for a month out. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing in a month. I cannot stand that super tight calendar scheduling thing. It's really difficult for me, except for around my kids. That I have, I've changed my life on that and decided that for the sake of the kids, I can keep a schedule. Right.
Do you have 2 girls, 2 boys?
I have 2 girls.
2 girls?
Okay. I have 2 girls and I have 2 stepsons also, but I have 2 girls. I call the boys my bonus children, but they don't live right here. So, and you can't really, take responsibility when you're talking about what you do, with other children, but you can definitely have full conversations about your own. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Of course. Can you tell us a bit about your radio show and how long you've been in radio?
I've been in radio for a little over 2 years. I'm on Healthy Life Radio. So Healthy Life Radio is an internet radio station that plays in 135 countries, and it's syndicated in 65 channels, and it's healthylife.net, and my show is called All About Healing. So that was a big way for me to research for this book, because I have all these different people that do different healing modalities that are around the world, and I've been able to pick their brains and have them to myself for an hour and and learn from them. So a lot of the information in my book is from that show. But the really cool thing about the show is when my book, The Body Heals Itself, came out, I was doing podcast interviews like I'm doing right now. And I had 3 on the Healthy Life Station, and they have the same one producer for all their different shows.
Okay.
And on my 3rd show, he said, could you stay on the line afterwards? And then he started talking, and he said, have you ever thought about hosting a show of your own? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, everybody thinks about that. And the next day, the show owner called me and said, listen, my producers told me 2 different people in 16 years, and you're one of them. So if you want it, you have your own show. So I really jumped in the deep end fast.
That's awesome.
Took off running. So it was scary. Like for the
I was going to say, was that
scary
for you?
For the first 3 months, I would lose my voice in the show.
Oh,
and I'm a talker. You can hear it. I'm a talker. But all of a sudden, I would get in there and I would get overly excited. This is how I learned to realize that the emotions run my vocals. Because when I would get overly excited, I would start coughing or get hoarse because I was like getting ahead of my own energy. And so I've had to learn to play with that.
Yeah.
And it was neat. I had a naturopath on the other day, and he brought up the same thing that you'll notice with singers, that when they have a big gig, they'll get hoarse, or they'll have some vocal swelling, or they'll lose their voice because of the stress and the pressure and the excitement, which is interesting to think about.
Yeah.
That kind of messes with the vocal cords. And for me, as a body worker, the forearm muscles are what resonates to the throat chakra of the vocal cords.
Ah, okay.
So people that sing a lot of times are taught to massage their forearms before they get on stage.
Really?
To help open the pathway. Isn't that interesting? So these are the kind of things that I pick up along the way and write about.
That's awesome. So have you gotten over this now? Are you pretty calm and relaxed in your radio show environment now?
I am, unless like there was one particular guest who had a near-death experience, which I'm real big fan on those. So I pull anybody that's got those. I'm like, I want them. Let's book them. Because I love that stuff. But she had a near-death experience she was pronounced dead and really went over to the other side. And she had this level of calm that was overwhelming to me. And I found myself getting hyped, whereas usually as the host, I calm when the guest is hyped.
Right.
But this guest was the calmest person I've ever been around, and it totally freaked me out. And I found myself getting like really kind of bajiggity with my energy. And I actually had to call myself out on the show and go, you know what? Usually I take the calm side if somebody else is nervous.
Yeah.
And I'm not nervous, but you're so calm that I kind of don't know what to do with it. And she said, I get that all the time. Because she has this peace about her.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people with near-death experiences, but hers is just monumentally different in the way she presents herself to the world, with a level of calm that is so far beyond my comprehension that like she stands out in my mind, because it was like, oh, wow, I had to drink water and kind of like talk to myself. Man. Like, okay, Emily, you know better than this. You know that you're getting excited. Chill it out a little bit. Take a step down. And that's when I just finally came out with it. Like, wow, I'm having a hard time navigating myself around.
Knock yourself off the ledge, so to speak.
Yeah, because when you call yourself out, the nerves usually go away.
Right.
Because you're not trying to hide it. Like, I got this thing together. Like, I don't. I'm a hot mess. That's just the truth. And when I finally got honest with that.
When you owned it.
Yes, because I used to spend years. I remember teaching yoga, and I had really bad anxiety. And I would look over in the mirror, and I looked so calm and together. And in my head, it was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to pass out. If I pass out, what if they see me? Like, all of these things are going on in my head. And I look over and I'm like, how do you look normal? Oh, I guess you are healthier than you think. Like, it was so weird. So I stepped out of all that and just got really very gut-wrenchingly honest about who I am and stopped hiding my truth. And honestly, it was empowering, but it was not at the beginning. It was messy and it was uncomfortable.
Well, I mean, uncomfortable is good. I mean, being pushed out of our comfort zone is good for growth. So it's not a bad thing. It's
True.
just learning how to control, as you did, learning how to control it and get it to a point where, okay, I can deal with this. I'm good.
You know, and a lot of people always thought I was super squirrely and quirky anyway. It's a different thing when you finally say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
when
this
you
wasn't
admit it
new.
out loud, when you say it out loud, when you say your truth out loud.
Yes.
Right?
And people are looking at you going, yeah, this isn't new information to me. You know, to me, it's like, okay, it's really new to me. You know, just let me say it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it just becomes more real when you say it out loud.
It does. And it allows you to take the responsibility for it because, like, you know, I'm going to say a cuss word and I'm sorry, but there's no better way to say it. The big thing for me is you have to own your shit. Yeah. So I say that all the time. Just own your shit and move on. Because if you own it, you can move on. You don't have to look back and think, what did I say? Because you're living it. Yep. Exactly. You know, this is why I can't be around dishonest people. I can't be around people that make up silly little lies just to get around things. I have no tolerance for it. And it's because I had to work my way through. So if, you know, people get I make people uncomfortable because don't ask me. Well, yeah, because don't ask me what I think. If you don't want to hear the answer. But I'm not going to be mean. But I'm not going to like, oh, you're perfect.
But that's a good thing, though. It lets people know where they stand. I think people should be more honest. That way people know where they stand.
You know, right? I have a friend who tends to be a little out of control in her dating life. And she called me and she's like, oh my God, I blew up his text. And I texted like, oh, I can't even begin. And she's like, do you think it's okay? And I was like, do I think that's okay? No, I don't think that's okay. I think you are a crazy wild lunatic. And I think you are a serious handful. Like, I think he is a saint for putting up with this. Like, I mean, that is, you know, so she knew she was going to get it from me because like, stop being nuts.
But there's certain people you can be that way with, where you can just be brutally honest. And other people, yes, you can let them know, but you just have to kind of dial it back a little bit. But still be honest. You have to hold
them with kid claws or you know, velvet gloves, and that's okay. I know them too, and I love them. But some people like, wow, you have to be willing to take some responsibility. And if you're like really out of control, there's some work to do.
Own your shit.
Own your shit and move on. That's my real, I would like that to be my tagline, but I don't want to alienate people. Yes. But that really is my personal mantra. Just own your shit and move on, because then you're not stuck in it.
Yep. Exactly. You know?
So there's me.
There's that.
There's that.
Is being an author then your first love?
It is my it is my absolute love. Yeah. It is my greatest passion and joy to sit down and write and really open up the channels to allow all the years of picking up wild information and putting it down for helping other people.
Okay. So how did writing come about for you? How did you get into writing, and when and where did that all begin?
Wow, you know what? I'm going to be so honest with you. I never say this part, but years ago when I was dealing with incredible anxiety and panic, I really lost my mind for a little while and sat out on my life. And so I was sent home from where I worked because I broke my finger, and thank God I was on paid leave. So I had 3 weeks off of paid leave, and I called my friend who's a major healer. God, he's like a wizard. And I went and visited him, and I started writing because I was so tired of trying to explain to people what anxiety was and how to try to get through it. I knew that there was some way I could heal, but I couldn't see the way yet. And so I started writing for me, but I knew I wanted to publish it. It was an old book called From Fear to Faith, and I've unpublished it since, but I self-published it. And it took me 7 years of writing of my life. And I wrote other things on top of that, but I wrote this book because I felt like Spirit does not give you something so difficult for you to be selfish with it and not be helpful. Yeah. And I worked really, really hard on coming back and reclaiming my life. Unfortunately, as I say that I have 2 stepsons, unfortunately, weeks after I finally got the book published, there was a court battle that wasn't mine, and I got thrown into the middle of it because of my book. Oh. And because of the anxiety and saying, well, she's not mentally stable, she shouldn't be around the kids because look at what she wrote in the book. Yeah. And it was my first chapter was, holy hell, I've lost my mind. And I wrote saying like, cause I wrote from the bottom. It wasn't, I was so tired of self-help books that had these authors going, you can heal, you can do it. And I'm thinking, screw you. I want to know how bad it was. Yeah. How crazy am I off your version of crazy that I can maybe make it through? So when I was at the bottom of, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to survive this. I really don't. So I started writing from that place, and it was very honest. And because it was self-published, you didn't have editors going, oh, you know what? You should not put that in. Yeah. And so it was all there in black and white for her to use at her disposal. And it was like a 3-hour deposition at my expense, page after page on my book. Oh, and man. I put some, like in my holy hell, I've lost my mind. I put a sentence in there that said, I ought to reserve my room at the loony bin. And they used it against me saying, are you willingly admitting you need to be institutionalized? So I am still gut-wrenchingly honest, but not in the same way with my writing anymore. So that book was a passion place for me, and it was sad to unpublish, but it's just not worth it, even though it's already been read and used. But what I did do with that book is I have cleverly cut it up and put it into every book I've written since.
There you go.
There's little pieces everywhere. And I stopped talking and identifying with the anxiety for a long time until I got that radio show all about healing. And then I found myself coming back to it because it's really difficult to talk about healing in a deep way if you can't say where you came from to get there.
Right.
And so that is, even though I don't have that level of openness and raw being now, it's still always mentioned. And I talk about my recovery and me coming back into my life because it was not a quick blip of my story. It was 7 years of sitting out. And I was 25 when I really started dealing with it. My dad died when I was 13. It's a classic thing. I never dealt with it. I was drinking all the time and partying all the time. And then I got sober, and I wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't have to go to AA, but I was really close. And so I put myself on, you're going to have to stop drinking because you're so out of control.
Yeah.
And so I did a year of sobriety to see if I could. Yeah. And I had no one in my life saying, good for you. And my friends were like, well, what the hell? What are we going to do? Like when we go out.
You're not drinking. Sucks. What the hell are we going to do?
And you know what I found is that I would still go to the bars with everybody, but I was sober, and I'm so open on energy that I felt wasted every time I was there, but I didn't have the hangover.
Yeah.
Like I remember walking by and this girl goes, oh my God, that girl's so drunk. And I was like, haven't had a drink all night. Thank you. And walked by, and, it was like, okay, I really am still wild. I'm just not drunk and, sloppy. And what it did is I always say the mask dropped and the crazy appeared. And that's when I started going to a number of different types of therapies to try to heal myself. And then when I had a child many years later, she was diagnosed on the autism spectrum when she was 3. Okay. And I used the same ways of approaching her healing that I did for me, meaning that I had to treat the whole body in full, the physical, the emotional, the energetic. And I had to do a ton of time in meditation to figure out what my next steps were, because I feel like if you're just telling friends, you're going to get lost in all the you shoulds, and you're not going to get forward in your healing. And so I got to work on my child for her, and by the time she was not yet even 5, they removed her diagnosis in full.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
She's a miracle child, and people get really riled up when I tell my story, even though I have it in all kinds of doctor's notes and second opinions and all kinds of things. But people go, well, that's not possible, because once you're on the spectrum, you're always on the spectrum and you can't get off. And I have to say, who the hell says that? Yeah. Who says that and you decide it's true? Like, this is the difference between people that get through and thrive than the people that stay locked down, because you've decided to listen to people say what you can and cannot do in the name of healing. And I'm not down with that. And so my child does have recovery. She is in regular classes. They've even tested her, because I've gone into the school saying, look, I need a double opinion. We've had our developmental pediatrician track from, this day. And the first 6 months after she was diagnosed, we did the autism school, we did the gluten-free diet, we did speech therapy. We did ABA therapy, 4 hours a day, 1-to-1 therapy, and her development only came up 3 months in a 6-month time. So she was developing half of the rate of a typical child. The second 6 months, we did every single thing the same, but we added in something called craniosacral therapy, which is a hands-on work with the cerebral spinal fluid. And guess what? In that 6 months, she had a 14-month development in a 6-month time and became verbal. And then 9 months later, continuing, we let go of the ABA school, let go of the diets, found a naturopath, got on something called NAET, which is an allergy elimination technique to get off the gluten sensitivities, no regression, and kept up with the craniosacral therapy. And 9 months later, the doctor said, your child doesn't meet any criteria for an autism spectrum disorder. She said, I've almost never done this. She said, but I am so happy to remove the diagnosis because you do not blanket a child and pull them backwards when they're moving so far forward.
That's incredible. And
yeah.
How is she now?
Amazing. I mean, we still, it's like being an anxiety or an alcoholic. You're always in recovery. Right. So you're always trying to stay ahead. And so we do still see our craniosacral therapist every month, and we still see our naturopath every month. We see them back to back. They've become good friends because of us. And they have a lot of people now on the spectrum that work with both of them hand in hand like we have, because I put out a video a couple of years ago of our miracle journey, and I've helped people as far as Egypt and Canada and Europe help find their therapists and their team, which is part of the other reason. And I talk about this only in the introduction of this whole body healing book, but that's the point, is that's the foundation of all of my work, is that miracles are all around the world, and different ways to go about healing doesn't mean that any one is right or wrong. It means that some have a different effect on you. And so that's my passion, is how do I help other people, because I'm living the dream. And honestly, when our diagnosis was removed, and we'd already pulled her out of the ABA school, which is you had to have an autism diagnosis to get in. And I went to lunch with a few of the moms, because I got to tell you, mothers of special needs children are a team. There's no cattiness in that team. All you got to do is walk in the door, and those women have your back like frickin' warriors. They are the most amazing women on this planet.
That's
and
awesome.
They took me out to breakfast, and one of the moms reached out and she held my hands and she started crying, and she said, Emily, you are living all of our dreams. You are living it. And she was like, please go out there and tell the world and make a difference and do what you can, because you are literally our dream come to life, and you're living it. And I've never taken that for granted. And my real calling, in my opinion, on this planet was all that hell from anxiety, and was, down deep and dirty. I got to tell you, sending in a poop sample to see what your child is sensitive to is disgusting. You have to have 3 cups of actual poop in a freezer in a bucket, and then stick it in a FedEx box. I mean, the things that I did to help her recover was off the charts. It wasn't just following one doctor's lead, and it wasn't jumping away and saying, I'm not going traditional medical. I kept all of that. I still do. But I went farther, and nobody gets to tell me. Like when I said, I'm withdrawing my child out of this school for the ABA therapy, and the lead therapist was so pissed off at me, she would not have the exit interview with me.
Really?
And I said, you know what? At the end of the day, I lost my voice because of you, because you became the leader in my child's world and healing, and I became weak because I trusted you over me. But I'm the mom, and I trust my gut, and it's time for me to take the lead back and do what I know is right, and this isn't it anymore. And they were so mad at me. But it really and truly, though, it's such a fine line to go, because people that have just the strict research and study into one place of a special need or a special requirement think that they know everything that there is to know. But they never, ever, or at least in my experience, I haven't found the people that look wider and go, wow, you know what? There might be something I don't know that I didn't learn in regular school that might be worth looking into. And now, like when I took my child and had her retested for everything through the school system, just because I wanted to make sure that we weren't missing and we shouldn't be ahead on some, therapy or something for schoolwork.
Right.
And the child psychologist at the school said, I've never heard of anybody getting off the spectrum. Would you mind if I test her for autism diagnosis? And I said, of course, you can test her for anything you want. And they would come back for all the results, and she was in normal limits or ahead on everything across the board. And when it got to the psychologist, she looked at me and she goes, okay, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I completely agree with your developmental pediatrician, and you have me up at night studying this craniosacral therapy stuff. And I was like, oh, there you go. And our speech therapist that started with my child at the hospital that we kept going back to for years, she told me, she goes, you know, when you were with a different therapist at school and you were telling me all the stuff that's happening with your child, she goes, I know you and I know you tell the truth, but I couldn't understand it. And when I brought her back to that therapist for evaluation, she started crying. She said, I've never seen anything like this. Emily, I've never seen anything like this. She goes, all I keep thinking is this Rolodex in my head of all these kids I've worked with that I wish I would have sent there.
That's incredible. What an incredible story.
What an incredible. I mean, the Upledger Institute, Upledger Craniosacral Therapy, I met them because I interviewed them for my last book. I went there to talk about fascia and muscles and emotion, and I got there and it was crawling with children. And I said, why are there so many kids in this office? And they said, oh, people come from around the world because they specialize in autism spectrum disorders.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, God, I got this. I see where you're sending me. I see what's happening here. And it changed the course of my whole life. And the owner of that institute paid for my first level of training to go through myself so that so that I could adequately express their work in my book. I had no idea we were going to come out of this with recovery. No idea.
That is absolutely mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing, right? When we started, my child was nonverbal and diagnosed with speech apraxia. When we got finished, she didn't have apraxia. There was no trace of apraxia and a full recovery and removal of a diagnosis. How many people can say that?
Oh, wow. So do you get people contacting you now? Like you've made this public, you must have people reaching out to you on a regular saying, please help me. My child is on the autism spectrum. I need help.
Yes. I say, give me your city, give me your state, give me your zip code. Let's find you some therapists. Let me gather up your team and let's get you started. I say it every single time.
Wow.
There's no way I'm turning away from anybody because that is the thing I can do the most is I want that for you.
You are an incredible human. That is so selfless and just, wow, I'm blown away. That is an absolutely incredible story. And the fact that you are willing to help anybody that reaches out to you is just, that's one of the most selfless things I've ever heard of. That's so incredible.
That's my job here. It really is. I don't, and that's why this whole body healing book, you know, I love to promote the book, but I wrote the book because it's my love offering into healing opportunities that live outside of your scope and that live inside of your scope. And also even as silly and as simple as your specialists for that part of your body, because not everybody, they don't know that. You're not taught this stuff in school.
Right.
You don't learn. I mean, this is so silly to me, but there was a day that I had this like quick cramp in my liver and I'm with my friend and I go, oh my gosh, I just had a cramp. Gosh, I hope it's not my liver. And she started laughing. She goes, that's not even where your liver is. And I looked at her and I said, that's exactly where your liver is. You know, and she was like, oh, I didn't know that. And I thought, okay, this herein lies the problem.
Yeah.
Is that we don't even know anything about our bodies.
Yeah.
We don't know who to go to when something starts signaling. And we go to our general doctor, which you should do. But what happens is people stop there and they take it's probably this.
Yeah.
It could be this. You should never, ever leave an office of a doctor with the words might, probably, could be. You need to leave with a prescription for your specialist. Get the tests. Figure out your starting point. How many people have been misdiagnosed Lyme disease for years, getting all these other autoimmune diagnoses before because there's so many false positive and false negative tests for Lyme. And so getting to the right diagnosis can take 3 years to figure out what's right. So like when my child was diagnosed, we took her to the pediatrician, the developmental pediatrician, and the child psychologist, diagnostic psychologist, all at the same time, because I don't trust one person. One person might know, but they might not.
Yeah.
You know, I had a person in my yoga class that she was diagnosed with spondylitis, ankylosing, it's a hard word, spondylitis. And I said, she goes, I've heard of this craniosacral stuff. And I said, let me have your zip code and I'll tell you which therapists are in your thing. Cause I like to look up what their training is. Cause under the find a therapist, you put in your zip code, but then it'll tell you all the levels of training everybody's taken. So I want to make sure, like for a child on the autism spectrum, if it doesn't have the words PED, pediatric, then they are not the right therapist for you.
Right.
And parents don't know that. So I like to do the research for you to make sure that I'm finding you the best of the best in your area. So I suggested to that girl, here's the craniosacral therapist, but something in me says there's an acupuncturist who's also a neurologist from Beijing, and I would suggest seeing him. I'm a great matchmaker for healing. And so she went to him, and he looked at her and he said, I don't think that's the correct diagnosis. I'm going to send you to an Emory specialist who specializes in spine and brain. Let's see. They diagnosed her with migraines and doesn't have spondylitis.
Wow. And
got her on totally different meds. And now she takes like a fourth of the medication she used to, and she doesn't have any pain.
That's incredible.
I mean, that's so when I talk about getting the proper diagnosis, I mean, don't play around and don't just get one. Like you have to learn how to take charge of your health, and nobody's taught you this. So I have this pathway for you. On research, and even to understand that for us in the autism community, when you see research, people quickly say a certain thing has no link to autism, and all the autism parents are saying BS. Okay. So the research done by a pharmaceutical company does not have to disclose who their doctors and researchers are by law. But if it's covered by a government agency, they have to disclose who the doctors are by law. So even getting around that stuff, you have all these private companies that have the medication for what it is that they're trying to get you to take. They are in charge of all the research. And so you read all this and take it as truth. When like that company that made OxyContin now has the same prescription for the thing that helps you heal from the addiction of OxyContin. They own both patents.
Wow.
They own both patents. They get you on the meds. They get you off the meds. Yeah. And they're a private company. So you're like, a moron walking through going, nope, this is scientifically based. It's research. It's sound. It's on these research articles. You have to know who does the research. Like even that is in my book. On understanding the different kinds of research and what they mean. Because I got to tell you, nobody researches like a mom of a child on the spectrum. Nobody.
I'm sure.
They're better than the FBI. They are. I've learned so much from these moms and from these badass women because they have got your back. It is the craziest thing when I switched and took my child to a neurotypical, regular school, and all of a sudden I met mean mommies, and I was like, oh my God, it's true. There's mean mommies. They're everywhere. I had no idea because I was used to being on the team.
Yeah.
Nobody keeps secrets in the sensory deprivation and autism spectrum. Those moms, if they find out something, they are going to share it because everybody wants to share in the joy of
help
recovery.
Each other. Yeah, of course.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, there was one little girl who never made eye contact and never would speak really. And she was in my daughter's class at that school. And I had suggested our craniosacral therapist, and I knew they had an appointment, but I didn't know when. And I walked in one morning, and the daughter was sitting with her head on her mom's lap. And I was like, good morning, so-and-so. And the child opened her eyes, made eye contact, and said, good morning. And I jumped out of my chair, and I went, oh, my God, she saw this therapist. Oh, my God, she went. And the mom goes, yes, how did you know? I said, how did I know? Your child just made eye contact with me. She said, hello. That's never happened in 9 months of every morning, me looking at this child and I do the same routine with every child. And she was like, I can't believe you could notice. We haven't seen anything yet. And I thought, well, okay.
Open your eyes. It's right there in front of you.
She's doing it, this is my child potty trained during this time. My child became verbal during this time. My child became empathetic and all of a sudden was interested in dollies and wanted to dress them and put the blankie under their chin, things that she didn't care about.
Yeah.
Before this, so anyway, I know I talked your ear off and I probably went over time, but it is important to me for people to know that there are options and opportunities around the world for healing. And it might look nothing like the picture you're thinking. So keep your doctors and your medical staff with you, but also go wider, explore, and be open and willing, but don't make it with your friends. I didn't put this stuff on social media. I didn't even announce any of this on social media until she actually had recovery. I didn't even put out there that she was diagnosed because I did not want the millions of people, not millions, but really I have a lot of people in the field and in the healing field, and everybody thinks they know best.
Here's what you should do. Here's what I think you should do.
Here's the diet. Here's the protocol. Yes, and you get started, and it's what everybody's done. And the other thing that I'm proud of for this book is that I don't have an attachment to what you choose. So there's none of this, you should do this, and you should try this. This book is, here's some options under this aspect.
What you do.
Here's some options. Yeah, and I don't even, I say, my teacher used to say that, if I were you and you were me, I would do this. So sometimes I'll say that, but I didn't even say that in the book. It's really an unbiased opportunity of all the things I've researched into healing and what that looks like and who lives there, who lives in those places for healing. And I even put the child stuff because a child neuropsychologist is different than a child developmental psychiatrist, is different than a child school psychologist, is different than a child developmental. They're all different. But if you don't know what you don't know.
That's right. That's right.
And so I'm trying to spread the light and the love, the opportunity.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
So why did you choose the health and well-being field to get into? Where did that come from? Is this born because of, pardon me?
I've never left it. It was never a choice. Like, I was a gymnast since I was 3.
Okay.
I cheered in high school. I cheered in college. I have a degree in exercise science. It was a natural thing to do. I immediately left there, started studying yoga and Tai Chi and aerobics and kickboxing. And then everything kind of built on everything. So I always say, like, I'm 45 years old and I have more than 23 years of study under my belt. So I literally have studied more than half my life on healing modalities, but I've really been in this field as long as I was moving and breathing and kicking.
That's
it just
incredible.
was always a part. Like recently I went to New York and I met with my agent and a bunch of authors and people, and they're all in the body, mind, spirit. And all their stories, it was like maybe 2 or 3 that didn't match this. But all the other stories were like, I used to be a marketing exec. I kind of stumbled into this field and now it's my whole field. And when it got to me, it was like, okay, yeah, there was no stumbling into this. This has been my whole life.
I was
and
born
everything I've ever studied. You know what? I never liked any subject in school but recess and PE. It was always my thing.
Part of your DNA, right?
Yeah, and my dad was a workout fiend, and I think that was part of it, is that he, like, when I was young, I wanted to be a bodybuilder when I grew up. Now I'm not a bodybuilder at all, but I love muscles. I love muscles, and I love to work with muscles with my hands. And the muscles, they speak to you. They have their own language, and it's just fascinating.
Awesome. So you being an author, what are some of your favorite books to read? What types of books do you like to read?
Well, I love spiritual books. And one little girl looked at my bookshelf many years ago and she goes, "What's the deal with you in heaven?" So I love those kinds of books. But my all-time favorite book is called Awareness, The Perils and Opportunities of Reality. And the author is Anthony DeMello, and he is an Indian yogi, Jesuit Catholic priest and psychotherapist.
Wow.
And he did workshops, and he did a workshop on awareness. And after he passed away, they transcribed his workshop into a book. And he's written several books, The Song of the Bird, The Call to Love, many, many books. But he's so, like, I did not want the book to end, so I would only let myself read like 3 to 5 pages a day because I didn't want to devour it because it meant so much. And then his predecessor wrote a book called Praying Naked. Okay. And his name is J. Francis Stroud. But my friend fell in love with the book and went and bought me a copy because she said, "This book is going to change your life." And it did.
Wow.
It did. And it's my most treasured of all the books is Anthony DeMello. I think he's, one of the things that he talks about is listening to confession of all the years. And in confession, he said, all the priests talk about sex and all the hookers talk about God. Because whatever you decide you can't have, you immediately attach yourself to.
Right.
And so the obsession becomes real because you didn't give yourself, it's not mindless.
Yeah.
Hookers feel guilty to talk about God because where does God fit? And priests, feel guilty to talk about sex because it's not supposed to be in their life.
That's
but,
right.
He calls it like it is in his writing, that awareness, that perils and opportunities of reality, is, look, I'm behind the curtain and I've listened, years and years of confession, and these are the things I can tell you.
Interesting.
But it was, he's fascinating. I think I love his work, and I'm sad because I emailed his predecessor many years ago saying, I want to study with you. because it changed my life. And he said, oh, we don't charge any money for our workshops. You just have to pay the money to get down here. Yeah. And then we'll help you any way we can. And back then I was so broke, I couldn't get there. Yeah. And so years later, when I finally was making money, I wrote him again and I said, okay, I'm ready. I want to come meet you. And he had died too.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, but this was crazy. I'll tell you this. I have a client that I've worked on for years. She's young, and she has primary lymphedema. And we actually wrote a book together called A Leg Up on Lymphedema, and it's still out. And her family sent me to Florida to do this kinesiotape training to see if it could help her. And I was coming back through the airport, and I had kinesiotape all over my face, that squiggly tape you see on athletes.
Yep.
So I'm going through the airport and I literally have it on my face, on my hands, up my arms, because of the training. And I decided not to take it off because I wanted to prove to her that your healing is more important than your vanity. So I'm going to fly home and I'm going to be taped and I'm going to show you in person what this tape looks like. So I'm on the shuttle from the from the hotel to the airport, and there's only one little old man sitting a couple of rows ahead of me. And somehow, because he asked me about the tape and we got to talking, Anthony DeMello came up. And the guy looked at me and he goes, I'm a psychotherapist and I trained with him.
Oh, wow.
I almost jumped in his lap. I was like, oh my gosh, you have, and he goes, up in New Jersey, and we were in Florida. And I said, you just have to tell me something. He said, Emily, unbelievable, unforgettable doesn't nearly give him justice. Just doesn't nearly give it justice. And we exchanged emails and kept in touch for a long time, this sweet little man. But I felt like it was like a gift.
Yeah, for sure.
Of like, okay, you didn't get to study with them, but I'm going to send you this little man who's easily mid-80s, and he's going to at least tell you how delightful it was to share space with this person.
That's awesome.
I thought that was awesome. I love kismet. I love kismet stuff. I think the world is full of miracles and magic, and I think it's really sad when you don't live that way because you're missing out on so many like really cool opportunities.
Absolutely. What is a passion of yours that you rarely share with people, and why not?
I don't know that I rarely share because I write books, so that means you're pretty open. Gosh, I mean, everything. My most passionate is my children. I mean,
right.
There's no doubt about it. So the most passionate to me is to. Actually, you know what? I will. This is the one thing I don't share that much because I feel like people either think you're lying, or they get weird about it. But really, my most passion is my family, is being here with my husband and my children. There's no one in this planet that I love more. And I live in a really, really happy, peaceful home. And I tend to keep my husband very private because our relationship is so strong and loving that I feel like people get uncomfortable with your happiness.
That's horrible.
But there isn't. I mean, I don't mean that bad, but it's true. Like how many times on Facebook do you see all these people talking about how great their partner is? And 3 months later, they're getting divorced. I have no time for that. And I don't really, it's mine. It's my private thing. I don't discuss my relationship in the books. And I pride myself on the kind of mother that I am and the kind of wife that I've become and the amount of love that I give. And it's obnoxious. Some people think it's obnoxious and I'm too lovey-dovey or, whatever it is. And so I'm really protective. So that is my greatest passion in the world, but I'm like, very aware that a lot of people aren't as fortunate, and there's nothing I can do to change somebody else's space.
No, very true. What would you say to date is your biggest high or your greatest win?
Oh gosh, having kids.
Okay.
Having kids. I mean, my biggest high and my greatest win is that I have children that are mine. And I'll be really honest, I am so grateful that I have little girls.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky. I love girls. It doesn't mean I don't love boys, but I don't know that I was really afraid.
Yeah.
Like my favorite dog is my boy. I have 3 girls. I have 3 girl pets and a boy dog, but he's my man. But with kids and stuff, I feel like the call to raise a woman is so sacred and such an honor that's what I'm the most about.
Okay. What sound or noise do you absolutely love?
Oh God, baby's laughing. That belly laugh. That uninhibited, no stopping, deep belly laugh with innocence. That just, that is like every time, even still even 6 and 8 now, but when they laugh, even from when they were born, every time they get that deep thing that laughs, I close my eyes and inhale and just try to take it in.
Yeah. What is your favorite word or one of your favorite words?
Fuck.
Well, I was going to ask you what your favorite curse word is, too.
That really is just one of my favorite words.
With that.
You know what? One of the other favorite words, though, is snarky. I do like snarky.
Okay.
I think snarky is a fun one, but yeah, I drop the F-bomb. I don't trust people that don't cuss.
Well, it's such a versatile word.
Well, and if you're going to sit there, I understand around kids, even though I do accidentally let something slow, and I try not to, but I actually don't point out that they're bad. So,
yeah, there you
because it's a way to express how you really feel.
Yes. Yep, exactly. And don't they say that people who cuss are more intelligent?
Yes.
I've heard that, or more creative. I think it's intelligent, though.
Yeah, I do. It's intelligent.
Yeah. What are you not very good at?
Anything with numbers. Well, actually, I can remember phone numbers, but anything where you move numbers. If you talk math to me, I will glaze over and have no idea of what you're saying.
If you could have one superpower, what would that be?
To be invisible.
To be invisible. Okay.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in a lot of places.
Can you share a situation that's occurred in your life that you feel would provide insight as to your character?
Yeah. I mean, to my character, losing my dad as a teenager changed everything about me. Yeah. And he was my favorite person. See, I don't have that story of like where things were bad. He was my everything. And I got really lucky to have a person that loved me that much because he had my back in a way that nobody has ever had my back until I met my husband. But It's still not the same. I mean, he thought I was the greatest. And I never was really looked at quite like that again in my life. And that changes your character.
Yeah. A parent's love for their child is unconditional, right?
You know, it is, but my mom's very different. Like, she's loving, but she'll cut you to the bone really fast and guilt you and make sure that you know all your flaws. And my dad did the opposite. You know, he saw me as a really fantastic little girl. And I think she saw me and still sees me as a difficult, ornery, loving, passionate person that really could piss her off the way nobody else can.
Well, I think as well, daughters have there's a very different relationship dynamic between a daughter and her father and a daughter and her mother.
Absolutely true. You know, but I work really hard to try to kind of have a different one. I definitely really watch my words around my kids to make sure that they feel whole all the time.
Right.
And I try not to do that because I have seen mother-daughter relationships that are incredibly tight and not competitive, but they're really few and far between.
Yes. Yeah, it's different. And daughters with their fathers, it's a whole different dynamic. So for me, to have that taken away so quickly, I was 13, and he went to play a tennis match, and he died of a heart attack, and he never came home. And for me, it changed everything about me. But it also made me a much deeper feeling person and more aware of other people. You know, because as a teenager, when that happened to me, it had not happened to anybody else. And so I was looked at differently from the moment it happened all the way until I could get out of high school and get to college to a new place where people didn't know. Yeah.
But it always felt like I was looked at. Different parents were more nervous about me now because I was just in a single parent home. And the kids looked at me different because I didn't have a dad. And it was like, all of a sudden you don't have a dad. It was like, no, I have a dad. He was a great dad. He died. Yeah. He didn't leave, you know, but it was everything about the way that I felt was different until I could go to college and just not. And then it became like my secret. So you knew that you knew me really well if you knew that, because I didn't tell anybody. Yeah. I just didn't want it with me. And I got to be somebody different. And now in my 40s, people are losing a parent. Yeah. You know, I had somebody email. I had the girl that was with me that day. She was with me at the gym, and we were coming home, and my mom had to go to the hospital, and we didn't know what was going on, and we had to watch my little brother. And I kind of left our friendship. I couldn't look at her. Yeah. And so I kind of didn't stay friends with her, and we kind of reconnected on Facebook.
Okay.
And she emailed me to say, my dad just died. And I have to say, I had no idea it was this hard. And I'm so sorry. And I wrote back to her saying, I've owed you an apology for 20 years. I'm so sorry that I left our friendship. I just couldn't face you. I couldn't.
Wow.
You were my memory of that day, and I just couldn't look at you, and I'm sorry. And she wrote back and she said, wow, I don't have that memory at all of you. I always thought you were nice. I never felt like you left. But to me, I remember it totally different. We were never the same. We never spent the night together again. We never hung out because I just thought, what else is going to happen if I'm with her?
Yeah.
Because I was with her when I started my period. And so it just felt like, what else is going to happen if I'm around
I hang out with her. Yeah.
And that's really what I felt like, was like, I cannot spend the night at your house another night, because the last time I started my period and the next time my dad died, you have to go away. You just have to. You can't be around me anymore because you make bad things happen.
It's funny the way we associate things when they happen with people.
And honestly, making friends with her again, she came over, she visited my mom. She now has 2 little girls of her own. We were pregnant at the same time. It was so nice to put a piece of that back in my life as an adult, to go, wow, I just love you. I sure did miss those years with you. You're hilarious. You are one of my favorite friends I have ever had, and I love having you back.
That's awesome that you're able to reconnect. That's great.
Yeah.
So speaking of, you had mentioned your daughters and relationships of daughters with their fathers and mothers. And what does the word empowerment mean to you? And how do you teach your young daughters about feeling empowered and being empowered?
It's so funny that you asked me that, really, because I have another book coming out in a year that's due next month. And it's based on my creation of the somatic body emotions, the somatic body chart, which is how your body holds things. And the ultimate positive emotion is empowered to me. And so the happy emotions are happy, joy, connected, and empowered. And empowered for me is a rootedness within the earth, within your energy, within your own body, and a high to the heavens that you carry as every part of who you are. So empowered to me is a connectedness with everything in your world, and then knowing how to own your own power and move within that world with that power.
Interesting. So how do you bestow that onto your daughters?
You know what? I do it in every aspect that I can. So when we're brushing our teeth or looking in the mirror, I'll make them stop. Look at how brilliant and creative and smart. Look how beautiful. I don't want to make it all about looks, but I don't want to leave the looks behind.
Yeah.
And so I usually have a list of at least 10 words, and I try to go a little wild, but I try to really hone in on their positives and make sure that we affirm them all the time. And I also do it when they're sleeping. And I'll kind of be over them of you are brilliant and powerful and smart and sensitive and creative and magical. And I always talk about this special light they have inside them.
Yeah.
Because what I realized is that I do a lot of prayers daily and I used to say, please let my girls do something amazing with their life. Yeah. And then I had to think about, what does that look like? And it's not that I need them on a stage or to be loud or to do what I'm doing. What I need them to do is have a life that's filled with purpose.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, wow. The best advice I've ever received is to really be as authentic as you can and learn what authentic really means. Nobody's actually said those words, but that's what I feel is we authentic has become a
buzzword.
It's a catchphrase, but the real meaning behind it is very powerful. And I do think that learning how to become incredibly transparent can change your life.
Okay. How do you define success? What does that word mean to you?
That I can go to bed at night and know I made a difference. I've thought about that a lot because it's not the numbers. It's not the money. It's not the success physically or outwardly. It's, can I put my head on the pillow and know that what I did today mattered? That's
awesome. I love it. If you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
It would sound like the same first 30 seconds. Your body is full of magic and wisdom, and it's time to start listening to it. and that healing is available to you and everybody else. I think you take that with you into the nether worlds too. I think it's a karmic thing that the soul expands from. But I do think that your body is full of magic and wisdom, and we don't listen yet.
Awesome. Well, Emily, thank you so much for being a guest today. This conversation has been incredibly enlightening, and I've learned a lot. You are a wonderful, wonderful human being, and what you're giving to the world is just incredible. I think you're a beautiful soul and a very, very selfless person. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me on, and also for finding me and bringing me on to this beautiful podcast. You're a lovely person as well, and I love your mission, and I hope I can support you in any way possible.
Thank you so much, Emily. Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. My guest today has been Emily Francis. She is a radio show host, an author, just an all-around incredible human being. Thank you so much for being here
today,
Emily.
Thanks for having me.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.